All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We are ready, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everybody, and thank you for making time to be here. This is a regular Board of Directors meeting for the Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1 for the City of Laredo. We are in City Hall. It's 5 o'clock. Would everyone please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Who's going to help us with roll call? Yes.
Mr. Justin Heather,
Here.
Mr. Joseph Neb,
He is advised he's unavailable today. I think he's out of town.
yes. Mr. Francisco Mata,
Here.
Ms. Vanessa Guerra,
She's also advised that she's actually out today, so she won't be here today.
Mr. Jose Ceballos.
Here.
Mr. Wilfredo Martinez,
Here.
Mr. Juan Caballero.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Motion to excuse Mr. Neb and Ms. Guerra.
Second.
Second by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 4 is citizens' comments. I don't have any cards before us here. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than, in this case, it's 4:45, I'm sorry, 5:15, correct? 5:15. And those can be found here. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to the city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Item 5, not hearing any public comments, we'll move on to item 5. Minutes, approval of minutes for August 13th, 2024. Those are in the packet.
Motion to approve.
It's been moved by Mr. Mata to approve as presented. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None motion passes. Presentation items, and I'd like to move up the action item. I'll make a motion to that effect. We have a business improvement district meeting that Mr. Heather needs to preside over, so I want to make sure he listens to the action item and entertains that with us. Motion to move up item number 7. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heather. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? So we're going to skip through presentation, go to action. The action relates to the AEP related work. I'll read the item, discussion and possible action to approve and ratify American Electric Power Texas AEP updated cost proposal for public relocation work on blocks 1100 and 1200 of Zaragoza Street at an amount of $137,823.03 and finalize and execute documents incident thereto. The board had previously approved this item at an amount at $124,635. So as background, we received an updated scope of work, and I want to say Edward Ochoa with KCI knows the specifics of what changed with that scope. But essentially, this is the updated number based on what AP submitted on August 2nd, after we voted on the prior scope. Edward.
Yes, good afternoon, Edward Ochoa with KCI. So do you all have a copy in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. So what you see is an updated, kind of the final design. And do you all have the map also?
We have the map in the letter, yes.
So that was the package that was provided by AEP. It includes the CAC, which is basically the contract, the estimate, and then the design that it was based on. So what you see in front of you is basically their final design. One change that I will note from the previous preliminary design that they had submitted to us with the previous cost estimate was they added one more pole. So there is an additional pole that was not on the first one. And that pole is actually located on the block between Convent and Flores. So it's not on the side, it's not on our block 1, but our block 2 portion.
That's a steel pole that's being
It's a steel pole, yes, sir.
taller pole than a traditional.
Well, So all of the steel poles generally are taller than the wooden poles that you see out there. I believe if you look at the estimate, I have a copy of it, I can share the screen if you'd like, but I believe it says 50-foot pole, right? Does it say there?
50,
I can bring it up here.
50-foot, yeah, the ads.
Yeah,
are
the
in
cost
red are
attached
50-foot.
reflects the installation of 9 50-foot tall steel poles.
Yeah, and
So
then-
they're the 50-foot tall poles, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I need to confirm that with them, but I believe that's, the poles are 50-foot tall. But I think that's not 50 foot up in the air, I think a portion of it goes underground.
Yeah, the existings are like 40, there's one that's 40-foot, 45-foot.
Yeah. So again, what you see in front of you is the final cost estimate and the actual contract that needs to be signed. And so I did speak to AEP and ask them what the next steps would be. So the next steps would be that, you know, that contract would get signed, and the fees paid, and they will put it on their schedule. And it'll all depend on their scheduling, right, for the work that they have.
we gotta pay in advance.
Okay, Mr. Mata, and then.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's normally.
and then Mr. Martinez.
I'm okay with it contingent, they provide us with an itemized, because I mean, we keep getting these, total amounts and we don't know what this actual, labor and what's material.
Okay. So yeah, they typically, what they do is they'll submit this pro forma version, but you would like an itemized version
Yes,
for the
please.
city?
On future invoices for anything,
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Mr. Martinez, you had a comment?
I guess we gotta pay in advance, you're saying? I mean,
Typically how it goes, yes, sir?
oh, really?
Yes, sir.
You familiar with that, Mr. Mata? Is that?
everything's negotiable in this capital,
I,
so.
not sure if the city has a different agreement with them. I know the city might have a different agreement with them, but normally on our other projects is you sign the contract, pay in, you pay up, and then they schedule the work and get going.
Yeah, we do that on the private side, when we sign the CIACs, and they do provide an invoice usually after they've got that, so we'll receive that after we.
Yeah, so
I will go ahead and request that.
we normally in our policy, city procurement policy, we don't pay anything up front.
Okay.
So if we are following procurement, city procurements, then we need to check that.
I would say a down payment, but the whole thing up front, wow.
I would think the city has dealt with AP before, right? So there should be a common practice somewhere.
Well, it's
established.
AEP or any vendor, we don't pay up front. We pay some portion of it. We don't pay 100% of it up front.
Yeah.
And so if you just go into the web portal for purchasing, you'll see the purchasing procedures there, and it'll list the procurement procedures for you. But certainly we can have that conversation with them.
So Edward, is this a critical path item for our construction?
I mean, not necessarily.
Because we're leaving cutouts, right?
Correct. I mean, the idea was that we were going to leave the areas of where these poles would be, we would leave those cut out for the pole to be placed. We weren't quite sure how the timing would work, so we planned for that ahead of time. But, I mean, I'll confirm with him. I mean, I guess that would be just part of the, you know, things to do, I guess, if you all approve it, right? I guess the most important thing would be to approve the amount, and then, I believe that the agreement is signed off by the city of Laredo, right? Not necessarily the TIRZ board. I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
Right.
Well, our project manager is our city engineer, so,
Yeah.
you know, he has to sign before I sign.
Okay.
That's typically what we're doing now with finances. So, Mr. Mata, you want to make a motion that you feel comfortable with?
I make a motion to approve contingent that they provide us with those itemized pro forma of the invoice, and just confirm that on the agreements if we're following procurement protocols, city procurement protocols.
I second the motion.
Been seconded by Mr. Martinez. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None motion passes.
If I can just add, I'm seeing that here, it talks about the agreement instructions. And it says a signed agreement
That's all.
gets emailed. Once the agreement has been processed, the AEP rep will provide with an invoice.
Right, so that falls in line with what we just said,
Yeah.
contingency too.
Yeah, and then it says follow payment instructions on the bottom of the invoice for payment, so, I mean, well, I'll make sure to look into that and ask that question for
All right, thank you.
y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now going to go back to items, on 6, presentation items, standing status updates. Zaragoza Street improvements. Edward, if you don't mind just staying up and giving us a quick update on how construction's going, and then we'll go on to the other items.
Yes, sir. We met with the contractor this afternoon, to get an update. So, Block 2, which is the block in front of, where you come from Nuevo Laredo, right, the, bridge number 1, pedestrian. They've got about 80% of that complete. They've installed the conduits, the irrigation, the water meter, and the electrical conduits all in there. They had to, obviously trench, take the bricks out and the pavement, trench it all, and put the utilities, and then put all the bricks back on top. They're pending the trees, but they don't want to install the tree. They don't want to place the trees until the water meter's installed, so that the meter can immediately water it. So they're ready. They're ready to go with the trees. They've got them ready to get ordered. And then, of course, they're waiting on the bricks for the intersection. And they told us it's about 2 more weeks out from what they've been told. So we've got about 2 more weeks on that.
Excuse me, Edward.
Yes, sir.
On the trees, has the selection been made on the species? And who's been involved?
There was a chart in the plans that showed the trees and the location of the trees. Rick, I believe.
What's the species of trees that we're installing?
I can look at the plans for that. I don't have that up front. You're saying specifically on that block?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going. It's just, I'm sure you guys looked at it. There's a lot of time to look at that.
Yeah, because the concern we had expressed in the previous meetings were how aggressive the root system is on those trees.
That's something you also like
If
to
you
bring.
put an oak tree and forget about it, that
Yeah.
thing is gonna spread all over the place.
Cedar elm or?
Yeah, Rick Solis with Able City. I know we did not specify a live oak tree because that causes all sorts of damage. I believe it's a cedar elm. Those roots tend to grow straight down as opposed to out, but we will confirm that and
Okay.
get back to
Let
you.
me see, yeah, okay, I'm familiar with that tree.
If you all see a problem, interject yourselves before it gets planted.
Yes, absolutely.
Not literally, not physically,
Yeah,
but I mean.
planted.
Yeah.
Or else we'll get planted there instead.
Now you mentioned meters. Are they going to be irrigated on a system, or are they going to be self-sustained?
The meter, so what we've done is we've added an irrigation meter per block.
Okay.
That'll be tied back to the city's system. So they've installed the meter, and then there'll be the rest of the metering system. And then one of the discussions we were having right now that he asked was where to place the irrigation control box. So we'll be placing that with the electrical H-frame system that's going to be handling all the electricity for the lights and everything. So all that's being planned out for that. So each block will have its own irrigation meter that would essentially be, back in the name of the city or.
Percentage completion on block 1? Are we still?
So let me get back to my notes on that. So block 1, so the discussion that we had right now, so they've worked on a portion of block 1, which is that first half of Convent Street. So they're waiting on those bricks to come in so that they can lay those bricks. As soon as those bricks come in and they lay it, then we can open up that half of Convent Street. But the discussion that we had this afternoon was contractor requested if he could start on some portion of block 1 already. So we sat down and looked at that. Originally, my traffic control plan had for that whole block 1 to be closed off all at one piece, all at one time. But I did tell him, we discussed a location, and we're gonna go ahead and do what we'll call a traffic control plan phase 2A. So I'm gonna give him about half of the block. And that will be the block closest to Salinas. So the idea that we talked about this afternoon was, basically from Salinas to maybe about midway of the middle building, which is Ueta. They'll have that half to work on. And, I need to coordinate that with traffic and make sure everybody's up to par and agreement with that, but, they can probably start that as soon as maybe Monday. So we're looking at giving them that half of block 1 while they wait for another 2 more weeks for the bricks. Once those bricks come in at the intersection, then they'll be free to continue with the way we had it per the traffic control plan.
Edward, and in block 2, they're resetting some pavers.
Yes, sir.
Are they doing the entire section of that walkway to reset, or?
No.
No.
No, sir. So going to block 2, that was one of the discussions that we had right now with them, is we had designated some areas that I think we might have walked the project maybe a year or 2 ago, and we had designated some areas that had some sunken bricks, and so that's what we kind of went off of. So they've worked one of those areas right now, and they were working their way to the east, and they noticed, they said, hey, Edward, there's an area out here that looks much bigger than what you have denoted on the plan sheet. And I told them that we'd go take a look at it tomorrow morning, so we're gonna look at it with them. But what they believe is happening is that's where the truck for the food delivery probably parks, and maybe over that time it's settled a bigger area. And so he was saying, he didn't want to start on it because he wanted to make sure we looked at that. So, I'm getting into kind of the business side of what we handled, but we were going to go look at it tomorrow, assess it, and then come back and visit with you guys, or maybe through email with engineering, and decide if we really want to take on the bigger piece. It might be a change order. We'll just come out of what we have budgeted, but,
There's an area within the 50 feet of the intersection, right on the east side, that seems really, really low, collecting water. But yeah, I agree. I think it's that truck that goes in there. So is there repair to repack it? Is it sand packed, or is there concrete base?
there's concrete base underneath. What they were doing is removing it, redoing the concrete underneath, and then there is sand and then the brick. One unfortunate, I guess, issue that they're coming across is those existing bricks that are out there are all different thicknesses.
Right.
So they were anticipating, we were all anticipating that they were all the same kind of brick and the same kind of thickness. So the challenging part that they're having now is,
It's not leveled.
you pour the concrete level to pour the sand level to put the bricks level. And now that you have bricks of various thicknesses, it's becoming a challenge for them. So they've gone and they've made that adjustment, but they brought it up to my attention that they might have to do it differently on the next ones.
Are they having to shave the bricks?
No, they're not shaving the bricks. They're just making an adjustment. They ended up going and making an adjustment on the concrete. But basically, I think what they're doing is they're adjusting the concrete maybe a little deeper, and then the variable thickness will be in the sand, as the bedding. So, but that was again, one of the challenges that they've encountered out there.
Nothing major in terms of change orders, right? Coming back.
Not at this time. We'll go ahead and assess that. The one that we did talk about was on block 11. There's a section that they added grass, and we had visited briefly with engineering to extend the irrigation system. That's over there on the Iturbide side on block 11. And that was relatively minimal cost. So they went ahead and looked at doing that work, and we're just waiting for them to provide the change order on that. But that was pretty, relatively minimal, a couple thousand, 1,000, 2,000, something like that.
And Edward, the curb in for the monument is done, right? On Santa Ursula?
The curb for the monument is all done. Yes, sir. So I was gonna get to that. On block 11, they've said they're about 80% done also. They've installed the grass, they've installed the concrete and all the electrical conduits. So they've got the conduits running we had conduits running into the monument where the monument's gonna be. And then we had conduits prepped to cross San Dario Street when we come with the Iturbide project, so that that electrical, assembly that's being, placed on the east corner of Iturbide and San Dario, that'll provide power down Iturbide when the Iturbide project comes.
Where's that H-frame gonna be?
The H-frame, we went ahead and set it, we actually set it a little bit further south. My plans had it to be set kind of on the edge of the concrete, and we went ahead and agreed to set it in the grass area, so we moved it a few feet south.
In the right of way?
It's in the right of way, yes, sir. It's in the right of way, but that little section has kind of a wider right of way. It's over off on the right side. It's near where the, current, electrical pole is. So the idea is that electrical pole will have drop service to the H-frame that's there. So they've done all of that work on, block 11. And again, they're pending the bricks, which are going, we have some bricks that are all gonna be placed around there. So they have everything set minus the brick layer. And then they've got a handrail that they're gonna work on for the steps going into the building that's there. But all, the rest of all that, the drop-off shape is all completed out. And then going back to block 1, yeah, so my notes on block 1 is what I had already mentioned. They would like to get started on that as soon as possible. So we met with them today, and we are planning on scheduling that for Monday, hopefully, and get them started. We've got to coordinate with traffic department. I had spoken with traffic department about coordinating with them so we can move the taxis and stuff.
Okay.
And then, again, pending change orders was, as I mentioned, the bricks, the extra area of bricks, so we'll get a better assessment of that tomorrow. And then the irrigation system on block 11, which we talked about. And that's the update I have on the project.
Have they requested a draw yet?
Yes, they've requested one draw,
One draw?
and that was approved a few weeks ago, Andrea, right? We approved that and processed it through the city. So all the draws are coming to me, or to our office. We're reviewing them for quantity and providing comments back to them. They'll make a revision to the draw and send it back to city. And we sign off on it, and then city signs off on it.
Would you all like copies? Because it comes to me and it's no problem to.
No, I'm good, I'm good.
If you ever want to see something, just email.
Okay.
Yeah. I keep a folder on it.
Okay. And that's all I have. If y'all have
Thank
any
you.
questions
Thank you.
for me?
Sounds like it's going well.
It's going well. They're moving quickly. Just a little bit of a delay on getting these bricks, to be delivered. Just kind of some regular supply chain issues that we come across, but, as soon as those bricks come in, they're gonna take off on the rest of it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is project plan and financing plan. So we are still in the draft, stage. We did present before council. I think you all have heard this before. If not, I'll update you. So we did present before council, so we got that, squared away. We have the itemized amendment to the plan that needs to be finalized, and that's really with me and Ms. Frank and Mr. Morales is helping us with it. So it's really more on me, so I've got to get that finalized into the 1-2 page, and then we will take that to city council for an official adoption. The purpose of the project plan was really to help us kind of drive the discussion with city council, so I think it went very well. City council did approve an additional 1.5 million out of their bond, not the bond referendum, but the bond package that gets out. So I want to officially and formally thank everybody that was part of this process, and obviously thank the city council, the city manager, and everybody on the team, including, our legal help, Rudy Morales, the community development team, everybody that was part of that. Council member, for your leadership, you're back there. Thank you so much for that. I think it's the first time that the city dedicates that level of expenditure outside of what it does normally, so we're very grateful on behalf of the folks who represent on this board. I appreciate everybody's help. And to fire department for your efforts in getting us through this planning process as well. Thank you so much for your help. All right, so that's the update. Is we're basically just delineating, itemizing the amendments to the original plan, and that will get presented as an official amendment to the plan. And subsequent, for those of us that may be here or others that will come, any amendments to the plan will come in the form of an amendment to the plan. to the 2017 plan. So that's the recommendation that we got from the city, and I think that's a good one. It basically just itemizes what you're updating, and you take it over to city council for approval. Thank you, Justin, appreciate your help. Wayfinding, I know there was some email traffic on the wayfinding discussion. Rick and I worked together with FSG to look at all the different clauses that the city, both Ramon and Ms. Martinez had asked us to look at. Some of them related to bonding, some of them related to the repair process for the sidewalk. So all of the items pretty much got cleared out. I think there was a glitch in how I shared the information, so I'm gonna resend it to Ms. Martinez and with the new document. I think Mr. Morales had already cleared the form itself, so it was just a matter of making sure that we cured the administrative issues on the proposal.
And-
That's
and-
the update there. I don't know if the board has any questions.
Just to add to that, so that the board knows, we basically added extra items at no additional cost to the overall proposal. So they included their bonding, included the repairs, the electrical work, all of that's included. So at one point, they were charging us a little bit more, but we basically said we didn't have any more. So they worked with us and they were able to get it all within the original cost that was approved.
I think the discount we got was somewhere about $5,000 or $6,000,
More or less,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, so I will share that and hopefully get that. That's already gone through procurement as a sole source, you're probably aware, Mr. Mata, so we're excited to get that on the ground. The murals project, I really don't have an update there. I know that Ms. Castillo where I was present too, we ran through a workshop at the artist.
I have an update.
Do you have an update?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I did speak with Ms. Castillo earlier this afternoon. Her message to me was that they're currently working with both the artists and the property owners to finalize their agreements. The city's just acting as the liaison between the two groups. She did indicate that they had some issues locating some of these property owners, but they pretty much have worked through it. Their goal is to get some of these started, within the next month or so. So that was the report that she gave me.
Yeah, I do want to make the board aware that I reached out to Sherwin-Williams to see if there was a charitable contribution for paint. And although I haven't received it in writing, and I don't know what the procurement process is to accept donated items, but the idea would be that they would donate the paint that would be used for the artists and provide, I guess, an in-kind savings for the project. So I don't know how we would handle that if we do get, an affirmative. I mean, I'll probably lean on you to help us navigate that process.
I'm curious, on some of these agreements that you guys are making with the property owners, is there somewhere in the language where if they sell the property, that the new owners don't get rid of that mural?
I'm not privy to those agreements, but I do know that the agreement was for like 5 years, that they
Yeah.
had to agree to not do anything with this.
Right, but when it changes owners, that's,
Yeah, so I know that was discussed with the artist and with the committee that's working there. So if there's a prospect that it'll get sold, it will not be installed. So, but we're using an existing city agreement, so I would think that it's included, but I'll coordinate with Miriam to make sure that there's language that it covers that. There is one building that we know is gonna be sold, and the owner told us, so it's probably not gonna make the cut. So there's 2 locations that I know of that are not gonna happen, that need to find another location. The artists, while I was there, they were ready to go. They are anxious to start. It's part of the administrative piece that it's a little, slower than their interest.
but things change. So in the event, because right now they might not sell, 2 years down the line, a good offer comes on the table and they decide to sell. Can we add something to the language if that does happen to have, or find somewhere in there where we can?
I'll make sure to pass that message on. I don't know who handles.
Share the agreement that you have and I'll review it.
Well, so, because
Miriam.
it's sort of out of our,
I'll contact
Miriam's the
Miriam.
one that's controlling that.
Economic development.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor,
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey, good afternoon.
I just wanted to share, Alicia Cigarroa for the record, I just wanted to share that I had reached out to San Francisco a couple years back, requesting information and contracts from the program that they ran. And so they were willing to share all of that with me, and I had shared it with Medium, but one of the requirements, and this, I want to say that this was an issue there also, and it was part of the agreement with the property owner that whether it's be sold or whatnot, that the mural would have to stay intact for X amount of years or whatnot. But I'll be happy to forward that to legal and for just reference.
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, it's not an action item, but I mean, I think we all concur that it needs to stay up for 5 years.
We gotta protect our investment.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, yeah. I mean, I guess. we
You know,
just need to
probably
put
set a
that-
value if it has to come down for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, they have to pay us back.
Okay, so the next item is the Iturbide sign, which becomes important now that we actually have the cutout in the street to fix that.
So our understanding is that the bids will be received on Thursday. So it's already been, we already had a pre-bid meeting. It's been out for about 3 weeks.
That's a big sign, right?
Yes, that's
That's
the big sign.
The main sign.
So we'll see how many bids that we receive on Thursday.
And so you have a pre-bid somewhere? Because I'd like to try to be there if there is.
Well, there was.
Oh, I missed it?
Yeah, I missed it too. I was out of town, so I'll but yes,
Okay,
there was
so,
a
but
pre-bid.
people
that
did
was-
show up? Do we know who showed up?
My understanding, we've actually did issue an addendum this, yesterday. South Texas Neon was one that, asked some extra questions regarding the signage, so I don't know who else, attended the meeting, but we can find out.
Okay. All right. And Rick, this is a steel structural, okay.
Concrete based, like whatever we have in the
Right.
design, yeah. It's
Heavy duty.
It's heavy duty, yeah.
What was the ultimate height that we landed on?
I think we brought it down to about 30 feet from, in talking with some of the different vendors, we originally had like a 45-foot sign, and they were like, you guys are nuts. So they said, if you lower it, it'll bring the cost significantly lower.
We don't want aircrafts to.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we did do that. We did look at it, and it should serve its function to call people to that block.
All right. The last, are any questions on the prior items? The last item, I'll provide the update. So, this is the Transportation Alternative Set Aside Program funding. This is the Salinas Street improvements, again, sidewalk, trees, lighting. We did have a meeting with the TxDOT and folks that oversee that particular agreement, or oversee agreements where they're running projects through that program. We walked with them, the location, Edward kind of led our team with his expertise on how things have been designed, and Ms. Frank was there as well to provide input, and city staff and others. So we essentially wanted to make sure that everyone understood we were all on the same page. We thought we needed to rush into an agreement because we have a discounted rate in terms of the match, but it appears that the match is being discounted into the next fiscal year. So we, subsequent to that, we slowed the process down, met with the city manager and articulated what the next steps, and I just sent that off to Mr. Mendivit this morning saying, you know, that the city, the TIRZ will be the sponsor, just like it was originally planned. The issue that we have, Mr. Mata, from the finance side, is that this is a reimbursement grant, so we have to have cash as a TIRZ, or otherwise the city would have to dedicate the cash, which was, in my head, the prior thinking when we submitted this proposal. Now that we probably are gonna have some cash, this makes it easier for everybody. So the agreement is that now MPO will report back to TxDOT that the TIRZ is the sponsor. They will come back with a draft of the advanced funding agreement. At that point, we will review it again and then move forward to here on the board first, and then it'll go to city council. Ultimately, it has to go to city council for the purposes of there being an allocation or a set aside or an escrow amount of cash that will help us fund the draws when that goes in. There are certain things that got removed or that will be removed that we're asking that be removed from the agreement. And those were discussed with TxDOT. One is not getting too specific on our initial concept so that we're not locked into all of the sidewalk lengthwise in those 3 blocks. It goes from Water all the way to Iturbide on both sides, the conceptual, but they allowed us, and I mean, I guess several of you were there, and hopefully it gets put in writing, that, I'm gonna wait for him to come back, because otherwise we don't have a quorum. But, we don't have any action. Can I continue, Mr. Morales? Okay, so we basically are just gonna end the addendum, it will just have a line delineating the project location. It's not gonna show the actual highlight of the sidewalks. When we do our engineering, the engineer will then have a scope, and we'll have a drawing that's more detailed to illustrate whether it's a tree, a sidewalk bump out, whatever. At that point, this board, and hopefully I'm still here, but regardless, you all need to pay attention, everybody needs to pay attention, because we're guaranteeing with TxDOT, any excesses are covered. So that's the concern that the city has and that we should have, that we basically undershoot our scope so that if we have a change order, we're not stuck covering that massive change order that we may not have the funds for. So we'll, at least from my side, I plan to look at that carefully and work closely with whoever's designing this to make sure we don't overstate and get too ambitious on the design and then we can't deliver it. It's $1 million from TxDOT, and it's somewhere around 150 coming from the TIRZ. So you will see that come back in an agreement, and you can look at it then. Anybody else that was at those meetings want to add anything? No.
Environmental is not done by us.
Yeah, so I think the team from the city side was pleased that TxDOT offered to do the environmental, which will be less costly and probably more streamlined. They didn't raise any environmental issues that I could hear about or observe. I think Salinas should be an easier street, except for maybe a little piece than the other streets we've been working on. And maybe it's just because the team has refined how we look at improvement. That's probably it. It's not that it's easier, but that we've learned a lot in the design process. Any questions? So this comes back. I think we're going to be coming back probably in October, if not November, and then going to council sometime in one of the 2 meetings in November is the plan right now. Everything depends on how fast TxDOT will get us back the revised advanced funding agreement. Okay. I think that covers all the posted presentation items.
I'll say I have one.
Yeah, one more. Go
One
ahead.
more thing. So I just wanted to bring up, we updated the website with all the latest meeting minutes and agendas. Just wanted to point out one thing, and I don't know if something maybe you guys can look. We looked for the last 2 months of the videos on the YouTube page, and I couldn't find them, so I don't know if they're there or not.
For some reason, they're going to a different area, but we can get you the link, and then
Yeah,
we
'cause-
tried to ask them to consolidate it, but we don't know where it's not.
And really, I just need the link, because I
Yes.
can then link it to the meeting page. The other question was, do we want to post the draft finance plan to the website under key
I
information?
mean, it's public information at this point, sure.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah.
Those are my only 2 comments. Thank you.
For the board to know, we're still plugging away. It's not on the agenda. I'll just get this in there real quick. Hopefully, Mr. Morales doesn't stop me. We are still meeting with the county to try to get them to join our TIRZ. So just a little tidbit of information for you all. Hopefully, we're successful and we can get them started next year.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Last item 8 is adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn at 5:39.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Mata. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.